Welcome friends to this presentation. Today we will be looking into how to present and summarize the data, especially when we write a research paper, a research report, or we present our work before a crowd, that is when we make an oral presentation. So let's get started with this particular aspect of presenting and summarizing information and analysis and reporting of different outcomes of the research. Now, where do we want to present the research? That is very important. Whether we are interested to present the research in a research article, we want to write a research report or a research article where we want to present our research information, or we are going to make a oral presentation which is generally presented before a small crowd or a moderate sized crowd, which we call as a seminar, where people interested in that particular aspect comes and listen to your presentation. Or during presentation of a research report, the people who are associated with the report and those who had funded the particular project generally comes and attends the event. These oral presentations are generally supported by a PowerPoint which is being projected before the entire crowd. And in some cases, this research results are presented in the form of a poster. But since such cases are very rare and far between, so we ignore the concept of presenting research in the form of a poster, and we concentrate on the first two. That is presenting a research report in the form of a written report, that is a research paper, or a written report, or in the form of a presentation supported by PowerPoint. So what is the purpose of data presentation? That is very important, that we have collected some information, we have analyzed them, we have some data, we have some interpretation. So what is the purpose of this data presentation? This is a visual way to look at the data and to make the interpretations quickly, easily, and in a simplified way. To turn the attention of the audience to that part of the presentation where you want them to see. So in your data analysis, when you make a report, all the parts of the report or all the parts of the data analysis that you have done might not be that important to the considering the objective of the project. So you want your audience to look at a particular aspect of your research report or your presentation, which actually you can do. This will help you to complement the inference that you are drawing from the particular type of analysis. Now we require to have some points which you need to remember while presenting a data. First one is that don't force your audience to do mental maths and draw inference based on your data. So the mental maths concept of presenting the data should be minimal, and so that the audience do not do mental maths and infers about the data. The audience are interested to know the inference of your work. They should not be put to compute something to reach into the inferences, but the inference should be presented before them to highlight the important findings of your data, that is either in the form of table and graph with proper highlighting, so that the attention of the viewer generally goes towards that part which is most important for drawing the inferences. So let us have to look at how data are presented in the following forms, that is in the form of text, when data is to be presented in the form of tables, when data is to be presented after an analysis is been done, statistical analysis is been done, what exactly you need to report, and obviously graphs, which is a very efficient tool for data display. So let us go with text. Data shall not be placed in the text only if there are too few numbers. That means if your data set has very few numbers, it is better to better that data shall not be placed in text, and only if, that means data should be placed in the text only if there are too few numbers. That means and also it comes with a noun. Then use numerals like experiment number 5, group 10, like this. These are to be not to be spelled out but to be placed in the form of numbers. If the data has unit of measurement, express them as numerals, like 5 centimeters, not in spelling FIBECMS, not like that, but by these were numericals followed by units of measurement. 75%, not 75 in spelling. Data in text continued. If the numbers are not used with units of measurement, or with noun, then spell out the number if less than 10. That means 7 treatments, 3 fold like this. These are not to be expressed in numericals. But the number, if the number exists 10 or 15, 30, that means if it exists 10, so they are should be written in terms of numericals. But use numerals if 10 is 10 or above. So these are 10 or above. Sample size is 324. Not since the number is more than 10, so it is written as sample size is 324, not sample size is 324, not like that. Numbers with decimals shall be in numeric form. So if you have some decimal figures, some even one digit after decimal point, they should never be expressed in text in words, but they should be expressed in numeric. Zero shall be used before decimal point. Many softwares these days produce numbers after decimal point only without using zero. That means, for example, this 25 it comes. Some software prefers to write 0.25 in this way, but this is not the way it should be written in a report. It should be written in 0.25. Better to use 1000 separators. That means if your numbers are big, you should use 1000 separators so that it can be understood that 1000 millions, billions, like that, or thousands, lakhs, 10 lakhs, crores, so that they can be identified. Let us go next to the tables and see how we should arrange data in a tabular form. The best way of showing a structured numerical information is in the form of a table. Table has rows. These are the rows of the table, and table has columns too. These are the columns of the table, and this makes it a two-way table. We can have multi-way table, but then in the column side we can put more than 2 variables, and in the row side we can also put 3 number of variables. So we can have multi-way tables, but most popular is 2-way and 1-way tables. Now let us look at some names of this technical term. This is called as table title. This is column heading. These are called as column heading or horizontal staff. This is the row heading. They are called as These are the grid lines, the lines in between. Then we have row heading. These row heading are also called as vertical staff. So this is vertical staff and also called as row heading. Then we have location of data, that is the source from which you have collected the data, and then we have some complementary note. If you have something in your table which requires explanation, it should come below the source and generally written in italics, but the word note and the word source, these are written in bold letters. So these are some technical terms associated with a tabular representation. Now let us look at some golden rules for tables. Number 1, it's a crisp title of the table. Give a crisp title to the table. Not very big, not very small, but it should explain the meaning and the purpose of the table. Only essential data should be populated in the table. That means in your report or in your PowerPoint presentation, whatever you make, you might have a very big table, but all of them might not be important to be communicated to the reader or communicated to the viewer. So only display that part of the table, or actually display those data in the table that are important in the picture. Avoid using too many grid lines. Use 1000 separators. Make vertical staff and horizontal staff, that is column heading and row heading, short. Do not keep data cell empty. Use not available or not applicable, that is NA, and give an explanation what NA means, and align numbers with respect to decimals. If you are having some numbers with decimal points, alignment should be corresponding to the decimal, not right alignment, center alignment, or left alignment, but all you should see that all decimals points comes one up below the, just below the other. Now these are two tables actually. We have here a comparison between these two tables. First is that if you look at this one, this is an example of an incorrect table, and this is a grammatically correct table. Grammatically means grammatical from the point of research. So here you see this title is too long. Employed person per 1000. This can well be written as employment rate, as you can see here. In Indian labor force, employment rate in India, that's fine. You have to give the year, because otherwise it is not understood that it is corresponding to which year. Now if you require to give a note of what is employment rate, then you can give it here. A number of employed persons per 1000 population of age 15 years or above. So definition of employment rate comes in the note of the paper. Next is like give the title a crisp title. Then grid lines within the table, grid lines should be avoided when they prepare a research report, or unless and until that table is very clumsy, difficult to understand. This is quite understood that this is one row, this is another row. So try to avoid so many grid lines in such cases. Now this is it gives an overall value. So the table should end up either with a total or an aggregate value, that is an average or a grand value. So this is giving the grand value, overall value. This is average over all these cases. So this way it is more informative. Source here is not provided. Here is source and node also. In this table there is no node, so this gives an explanation anything in the node. So this is why this table is more appropriate than this one. Now let us look at these, that many cases what we need to do, that when we perform a study we select a sample. The sample can be classified in a number of ways by the different variables which are classified by age groups, marital status, qualification, type of higher educational institution, 3 categories, residence, 2 categories, gender, 2 categories. So these things we have. So we need to show that what is the number of observations under different age groups, what are the different marital status, what are the different qualification, the type of AGI, the residence, 2 categories, gender, 2 categories, expressed in frequencies, things in frequencies and percentages. So here the things are expressed in frequencies as well as percentages. Since the sample size is 220, you sum up any group, then you will find that this one will give you 220, this one will also give you 220, and this one will also give you 220. So this way all the groups are classified under different variables, and each variable, the grand total of the frequencies against the different variables will be wanted. So putting stress on tabulated data. In case of PowerPoint presentation, you can do this, not obviously in case of research report or in case of other types of presentation. For example, data when presented in tables shall highlight the values in which you want the audience to look. That means I am producing a table, but I have many things in the table. I want the audience to look at a particular value, observation, or a particular row. In that case, we can use an animated pointer which will keep blinking so that the attention of the viewers will be directed towards this, or we can use a background color which will make the thing colorful. For example, this. For example, if you look at this table, you will find that in this table, these two variables, that is economy rate in T20 and economy rate in ODI, these two are the significant variables. And I want my readers to divert their attention towards these two variables. So I have colored them differently so that they stand out, and also I have supported them by blinking arrow so that the viewer understands where he needs to look in this table. So now let us look at the what shall be the title in the table. The viewer generally look into a slide or a page from top to down. That means from top to bottom, that is the style in which you proceed. So from the page, you look at a page, or if you look at a presentation slide, you start from top and go down. So there should be a title which should be clearly visible before the table. Because I will not read from the bottom, I will read from the top. So the title should come at the top of the table. In some research papers you must have, or in some books you must have seen that the title of the table is at the end of the table. So this is not a good practice. It is better to put the conclusion of the table in the title itself in case of oral presentations. That is when you are supported by PowerPoint. This shall not be followed while writing a paper, obviously. For example, here I take an example to explain this. That here you see a table showing deprivation index values of different districts of Mizoram. So these are different districts of Mizoram, and I am showing the deprivation index values. So higher the value, more is the deprived. So from the data set, you understand that Langthwai and Mamit, these are two very deprived districts. So when you present this data set in this is a one-way table. When you present this data set in a PowerPoint, you can go ahead with like this about the title. That Mamit and Langthwai, the most deprived districts of Mizoram. It looks a little bit awkward, but the thing is that when you place the title in this way, you automatically communicate very quickly what is the main findings of the table, and blinking arrows actually directs your attention towards that also. So this is all about table. We go back and we now look into the analysis, and that what all things should be there in the analysis when we analyze a data set. But these two parts, that is analysis and graph, we will take up in our next presentation. Thank you for watching this video.